The Russo brothers are back on Netflix with their latest film, The Electric State, and one promise I can make you is that it's as memorable as their last film for Netflix. Can you remember what it was? This episode's brought to you by Mando. Go to shopmando.com and use promo code Dan for a special offer, and stay tuned after the video for more info. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my review of The Electric State. The Russo brothers' last Netflix film was The Gray Man, by the way, if you're taking bets at home. And this film finds the Russo brothers teaming up once again with screenwriters Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, based off of the original 2018 illustrated novel of the same name by Swedish author Simon Stålenhag. The original graphic novel for The Electric State has received nearly universal acclaim. I haven't read that novel, so this review is based off of my impressions on the movie alone. And now I'm going to give you the basic plot outline of the movie version of The Electric State, and I can promise you, I'm not making any of this up. The year is 1994, and the world is living in the aftermath of a destructive war between humans and robots. In this alternate history, robots were introduced to the world by Walt Disney and subjugated by humans until they rose up in revolt, led by Mr. Peanut, who is actually a robot version of the Planters mascot, voiced by Woody Harrelson. Mankind was only able to win the war with the technology of industrialist Ethan Skate, played by Stanley Tucci, whose revolutionary breakthroughs turned the tide of the war. Now robots are illegal and exiled to an exclusion zone in the desert Southwest, while humans live their lives through neurocasters, headsets that allow them to work via drone avatars with half of their brain, while the other half gets to do whatever it wants. It's a little like Ready Player One, in that it's a lot like Ready Player One. Millie Bobby Brown plays Michelle, an anti-tech teenager in foster care whose family was killed in a car crash when a robot version of a canceled MTV cartoon character named Kid Cosmo, who claims to be her dead super genius brother, shows up. She sets out on an adventure to see if he's actually still alive. Along the way, she crosses paths with Keats, played by Chris Pratt, an ex-soldier who fences relics of the old world, his robot assistant slash friend Herm, voiced by Anthony Mackie, and a former military commander nicknamed the Butcher, who's trying to hunt her down in his drone body, played by Giancarlo Esposito.
Hello, my name is Giancarlo Esposito.
All of this happens within the first 20 minutes of the movie or so, and the one thing that I can say about The Electric State is that it's not lethargic. It gets you into the action pretty quickly, and I think that the movie's strongest suit is the design. I liked the robot design. I liked how they use scale. The cinematography is generally pretty good. The robots all have their own specific functions that play into the story overall. And I mean, really, at over $300 million reportedly, this is the most expensive Netflix movie of all time, so it should look great, and I think it largely does. However, not much else about the movie really worked for me, and it all starts with the script, because the script seems to be more concerned with getting to the next unfunny joke or dropping in more needle drops than you can shake a Suicide Squad at, than actually doing things like, developing the characters or making us feel anything about them or putting a plot together in an engaging way. Most of the characters are one-dimensional, especially Chris Pratt's Keats. It's a stereotype of the kind of character Chris Pratt usually plays, which has basically become its own stereotype, and really the most interesting thing about him is his terrible wig. This movie very much wants you to care about Michelle reuniting with her brother Chris, who's played by Woody Norman, a young actor who was great a few years ago in a movie called Come On, Come On, and he and Millie Bobby Brown bring a lot to their scenes together, but there are too few of those scenes, and they're so full of cliches that I never really invested in the main premise of the movie. It just seems to kind of skate right over it. I think that the two actors together bring a lot of emotion into the scenes that they have, but the effect of that scene or those scenes is lost so quickly because the script doesn't really do anything with it. It's actually kind of hard for me to believe that the Russo brothers and these writers are the same filmmakers that brought us Captain America Civil War and Captain America the Winter Soldier, as well as Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, because their projects together since 2019 have been this movie and The Gray Man on Netflix, and neither one of those movies has really shown me a glimmer of the energy that they were able to bring into the MCU. The Russos are obviously going for a Steven Spielberg vibe here, from the heavy Ready Player One influence to the whimsical Alan Silvestri score, which often dominates the soundtrack. And obviously, I mean, take a look at my set. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to try to channel Steven Spielberg. He's probably my favorite director of all time. But this movie feels like a bad cover version of what Spielberg was able to accomplish in the 80s, much like the multiple bad cover versions of popular songs that you see in the movie. The notes are all there, but the impact is lost by putting it into the hands of a new artist. The script is also packed with every cliche in the book, including the scene where one of the characters says, "I am not going to do that thing," and then we cut to them doing that thing that they said that they weren't going to do. I don't think that a whole lot of the jokes land, and it just feels kind of uninspired. Honestly, this movie feels like the product of the rumored directive from the higher-ups at Netflix to make movies that are easy for people to watch while they're doing something else. This feels like a $300 million piece of background noise. Some people might say, well, you know what? This is Netflix knowing their audiences. They make movies like this on purpose, and you really shouldn't bring it up as a negative because that was the intention. I would say that making movies like this is a glimpse into a nightmarish portal that may someday suck all of the movies that we know into a hellish landscape from which there may be no escape. So, I guess it just kind of depends on your opinion there. Most of the actors, I will say, give it their best shot. Millie Bobby Brown does a few things very well, and she does those things in the movie, but doesn't really have much to do beyond that. Chris Pratt does exactly what you hire Chris Pratt to do. Ke Huy Quan gets an absolutely thankless role as an exposition machine / side quest on the journey. Coleman Domingo inexplicably shows up for one scene as a completely random, inconsequential character. The one actor really giving it his all, unsurprisingly, is Stanley Tucci as the tech oligarch Ethan Skate. And that really shouldn't be a surprise because the Tooch always comes to play. But there are only a small number of actors who could pull off the line, "Our world is a tire fire floating on an ocean of piss," and really make you feel like he means it. And Tucci, I'll be damned if he doesn't pull it off. There is a tone that I think could have worked with this movie, and that's as kind of a tongue-in-cheek satire. There are a few glimpses of it early in the film. There is a visit to a battleground memorial site that's named after a rest stop. There's the line, "Mr. Peanut signed a peace treaty with President Clinton." And I thought, okay, we're going to kind of go into a we know how kind of kooky this premise is, and that's how we're going to treat it. But every single time some fun threatens to break out in this movie, it returns to cheap sentiment and been there, seen that plotting. And listen, no film that features Brian Cox voicing a baseball robot named Popfly who recites "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" should be taking itself this seriously. And even if they wanted to just go for the emotional route, the movie doesn't even really have the courage of those convictions because there are some emotional beats that are just immediately undone. You actually might start to feel something as an audience member until the movie goes, never mind. And seemingly trying to replicate Steven Spielberg at his best, I think the Russo brothers have instead replicated him at his worst. This is cheap sentiment mixed with mindless streaming entertainment. It's like if E.T. had had a studio note that said, "Hey, can you dumb this down by about 75%? Netflix can make cliche-ridden movies that are also entertaining. Carry On, which came out last year, was one of those movies. Yes, it did fall into all the tropes, but it didn't take itself too seriously, and it remembered what it was. This movie feels like it was cooked up in a Netflix lab to have a sufficient amount of star power and sufficient scale and a sufficient budget to fill that top row of the screen while you're scrolling through Netflix for, 2 or 3 weeks until the next thing comes along. And look, it's very possible that this movie may join other Netflix original films like Red Notice and The Gray Man and The Adam Project and become one of the most watched Netflix movies of all time. But my guess is that, like those films, this movie is going to fade from your memory as it also just fades into the background of Netflix, becoming just another thumbnail in a sea of thousands of others. I didn't have a very high opinion of this movie, but I have to say that I think that it's technically well done enough and has enough of a hook for me to at least get it up to not a fan territory, but I can't go much higher than that. I think there are better ways for you to spend your time. Just find an older movie on Netflix that's streaming that's better than this if you want to spend time on Netflix. It just didn't do a whole lot for me, but what do you think? Have you seen the movie? Do you disagree with me? Let me know down in the comments below. And before we go, I want to thank the sponsor for this review, Mando. The clocks are set forward, the weather's getting warmer, and it's time for spring cleaning. Now for me, that's going through all the award season swag I don't want. Goodbye Amelia Perez t-shirt, hat, and poster. But why not also make it time to get rid of your old deodorant? Mando is a whole body deodorant that's safe for use anywhere, and I mean anywhere on your body, wherever you need it. And if you want to get started, you can get $5 off a starter pack right now with my exclusive code and link by using the code DAN at shopmando.com. Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It also comes in solid stick or spray options in a variety of scents like Pro Sport, Clover Woods, and my favorites, Mount Fuji and Bourbon Leather. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for fans of the show, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with my exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code DAN at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support the show and tell them that I sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Thanks to Mando for sponsoring this review, and thank you for watching. Be sure to stay tuned right here for more movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.